What's up, everybody? This is In the Pocket, where we talk about the people and things around sports that you want to talk about. That's my man, Maestro. I'm Big Bob. Maestro, how are you doing today?
Doing outstanding, feeling awesome. Thank you, everybody, for your feedback, for your questions. I can't even tell you how cool it is. And you know what, my man, Big Bob, let's go on and get this correction out the way. Last week, I said Pete Maravich, and it's Todd Moranovich. So we practice what we preach here. We talk about how people sometimes make mistakes and don't go back and correct them. And that is not what we do here. We own them. We say we're sorry. We go back and fix it. So we thank you for the feedback. We thank you for the patience. So Todd Moranovich was the gentleman that I was speaking of, whose father raised him. I
To be a
think
robot.
vegetarian. Basically be a robot. And of course, he gets drafted by the Raiders, and pretty much his life ended there. And I'm sorry that came up. That's too soon.
Pretty much.
But anyway,
Pretty much. But yeah, shout out to my unc for that one. But yeah, hey, let's jump right in. First question that we got from Dre Pope. Thoughts, and this one is close to my heart. It hurts. Happy for him, but thoughts on James Franklin landing at Virginia Tech?
Okay. So remember we talked about the very first episode, we talked about some of the rules here. We don't talk about people's paychecks. We don't talk about stuff like that. We just don't do that. So I'm going to walk the edge of being inappropriate here. Okay, so Big Bob, I want to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
In today's college ball, now there are the head coaches, but are they really the most important coaches on the team? And I would argue no. I would say it's the OCs and the DCs, right? Usually because those are the people that put your players in a position to be successful. Now I get it, college ball is a business now. We have to go down that rabbit hole. And don't worry, I'm coming back to James Franklin. But when I saw this incredibly awesome question, it really made me think about a lot of things other than football. Like it made me think about what is a head coach supposed to do? And there's a reason I'm thinking about that. How much money can they bring into the school, right? How much money can they bring in to support all those other non-revenue programs? And you look at a guy like James Franklin. So he's won what, 7 or 8 national championships? Is that right? Do I have that number right? 7, 8 national championships? No, none.
Well, hold on. As a Penn State fan, as a realistic Penn State fan, they seem to think we win. We seem to think we win national championships every other year. And that's
Right.
I'll talk about that whenever it's my turn, because I have some things
Yeah.
to say as a Penn State fan to all the other Penn State fans out there. But they 7 or 8 national championships, something like that. So go ahead, Maestro.
Yeah. So to me, the reality of, I looked at his buyout. It was at $49 million. It got moved to $9 million, right, or whatever. And then I looked at how many coaches who haven't won anything: Brian Kelly, Billy Napier. I'm looking at you guys who went to institutions. A lot was expected of you. You did not deliver, but yet you get these huge buyouts, and then you're going to end up walking in these other jobs. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a super positive for Virginia Tech because they're getting a who's considered to be a top tier level coach. I don't consider him that, but he's considered to be a top tier level coach. He's earned that reputation, all rightfully so. Everything else that goes along with it, he just doesn't have the things that you really want to go with it. Because if you think about it, Bob, and I looked at it this way: three active coaches, I believe, and please, Maestro, check me on this one. 3 active coaches right now have national championships. Dabo Sweeney. Oh, I'm sorry. I threw up a little bit in my mouth when I said his name because I just, whatever. That guy at Clemson. Mac Brown is still coaching. He won probably was considered the most exciting college game ever when Texas defeated USC back in 2005. And then, of course, Kirby Smart from my University of Georgia Bulldogs. So to me, Virginia Tech wins because they get a guy that's considered on that level, though he does not have the hardware to go along with it. And I can only imagine that he's going to do enough for that program to bring them into a higher level, much like what Deion Sanders did with Colorado. Perhaps even though it's for a short time, they actually got their time in the sun. But to me, with James Franklin, I'm just going to say it this way, and it's including his time at Penn State. He always seems to come in. there's generally a faux pas. Like, remember he made the comment about not necessarily considering Ohio State a big game or some point or something like that, and how that basically he had to turn that ship around. But
He
he
can,
did, right?
so I want to say he considered it's. I understand his philosophy. Every week
Hmm.
you're looking to go 1-0. Every
Right,
game is the same. Nobody is different. I
right.
understand the premise, but it sounds stupid when you talk about Rutgers being the same as Ohio State. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Is it, and see that's what I'm getting at. He made those missteps, and a lot of people don't come back from that. I mean, you think of a coach like Mike Singletary, right? Who got his job? He got his first coaching job at in San Francisco. One bad post game team talk cost him. I don't. He'll never be a head coach again in the NFL. So, but James Franklin was able to survive that. And oh, by the way, if you don't know that story about Mike Singletary, we can get to that at another point. But the reality of it is, Virginia Tech definitely wins. They're going to be now considered a different type of program, much like the way when Brett Key has now turned around the Institute, Georgia Tech. I see the same sort of thing happen with James Franklin there in Virginia Tech, same conference. So we'll see what's going to happen. So Virginia Tech's the winner no matter what. James Franklin's never going to lose. He's going to get big contracts. He's going to get major buyouts and all other stuff, which we don't talk about because he's earned it. But the reality of it is, in this particular case, Virginia Tech, to me, is the real winner here.
Yeah, Virginia Tech. I think they got the best available coach that we know of that's available. Uh,
True.
as I want to go as a Penn State fan, terrible firing by Penn State.
Yes. Agreed.
Penn State fans think we win national championships every other season. Maestro, answer me this question. How long did it take Joe Paterno to win his first
Woo,
national
woo.
championship?
Oh, my dear Lord. Oh my goodness. Um, I'm sorry. You got me. That's a great question. You got me on the spot. What? It was more than a decade, correct?
It took 16 years for Joe
Thank you.
Paterno to win his first national championship. He won another national championship. I'm always bad with math when it comes to years. 4 years later, it was 82 and 86. Those are the claimed national championships because in college sports people have unclaimed, I mean, they have unclaimed national championships because this person,
Yeah.
whatever. And the way the BCS and everything used to be, all that was weird anyways, so yeah, whatever. 16 years to win his first national championship. He won his next one in 86. From 82 to
Mm-hmm.
86 he won two. How many more national championships did Penn State win, Maestro?
Let me see. 14, 17,
Four, seven,
125.
three, five,
Um,
zero. In
carry the
45
three,
years,
divide by pi. Yeah, zero. You're right.
45 years, he won two national championships. What are we expecting? Penn State is under the elite, just I say this as a just under because they are still a blue blood, I believe, in college football. Penn State is not elite. They are almost there, but
Right.
they don't spend the money to do what needs to be done. Now, I say that people are going to go, "Oh, we just spent a bunch of money on all these coordinators recently." It took too long to spend the money that was needed to keep the people that we needed to keep around.
We
Um,
don't keep people anymore,
we
Bob.
don't,
We
and
don't keep people anymore.
it's
Come on, dude.
frustrating. You're not going to have your 45-year coaches anymore. You're never going to
Mm-mm.
have your Paternos and your Bowdens anymore. That's just not going to
Mm-mm.
happen.
Mm-mm.
And
Mm-mm.
it's frustrating because James Franklin, in my opinion, is exactly what Penn State needed, and they could have kept him around forever. Penn State is a 10 to 12 win team most years. They're going to have a down year every couple of years. It's just what it is. I'm a Vikings fan. We have a couple good years, a couple down years, couple good years, couple down years. It's what the expectation is. We're not getting Urban Meyer or Nick Saban to Penn State. The only way you fire a James Franklin despite it being the 3-3 start, yes, we were ranked number 2 heading into the season. The only way you fire James Franklin is if you have Urban Meyer or Nick Saban in your back pocket. And people are going, Urban Meyer, all the drama, blah, blah, blah. I don't want Urban Meyer. Shut up. If you want to win, if you want to have an elite school, you want Urban Meyer, regardless of that drama that it brings. You want him there.
Yes.
Virginia Tech wins this 1,000%. They are going to get a guy who is going to elevate their program. He is going to have them winning the ACC, or eventually when we get to the Super Conference, because I fully expect that to happen, where you have one giant conference. He's gonna have Virginia Tech every single year fighting for the ACC championship game. The ACC is weaker than the Big Ten and the SEC. This guy doesn't do anything but win where he goes. He can't win the big game. He can't win the big game. You don't have to win the big game nowadays because he was one game away from the national championship last season. It doesn't matter if he loses to Ohio State every single year. We lost to Ohio State every single year anyways. It's no different. He is this is where me and you disagree. I do believe that James Franklin overall, he deserves to be mentioned in that elite tier of coaches. Now,
okay,
when I don't know if there is really a better recruiting coach. I'm not going to say there's the single best, but he is a top tier elite recruiting coach. That's what he does.
Give you that. I give you that.
But like you said, is the head coach really the most important? I would say it's similar to the offensive line. What's the most important position on the football field? Is it the quarterback? I mean, it is. I guess you have to have somebody who can not make dumb decisions, but you have to have a good offensive line.
You have to.
You have to build the front line, which are the coordinators. You have to build them, and you have to give them the confidence to be able to build their team and run their side of the ball the way that they want to, or it's never going to fail, or it's never going to succeed. And we see Andy, the offensive coordinator for Penn State, he did a pretty good job his first season. It's kind of been, it's like, are the rumors, like, is James Franklin holding him back, blah, blah, blah. Jim Knowles comes in, not doing great, and he just came from winning a national championship with Ohio State. But you have to look at the things, for me, you need a couple seasons with a coach before you really know what you're going to get. And this defense was not set up the way that Jim Knowles typically has a defense. And you have to remember, Ohio State has arguably the best defensive line coach and recruiter in all of college football in Larry Johnson Sr., former Penn State coach who we let get away because we didn't want to give him a chance at being a head coach when Paterno was fired. Huge mistake, at least on that defensive side of the ball. But it is what it is. He is an elite defensive-minded coach. And this guy isn't going to have... Jim Knowles doesn't have the players that he needs for it to succeed. You don't just plug and play. That'd be like... It's like taking a quarterback and taking Tom Brady and putting him in a RPO offense. It's just not going to work out. Or if it is, it's going to take a lot of time. And people want...
Well, you know what Tom's ability, we have a funeral service in 3 weeks.
But they were so... It is going to take a long time for Penn State to get back to, unless they are able to convince Urban Meyer or Nick Saban to come to Penn State, which they're not. No. Penn State is going to be taking years and years and years to rebuild. We've lost all of the elite recruits that we had coming in this season. They're not coming back. We had a great class coming in. James Franklin was an amazing recruiter. He just needed to take his hands off of he needed to take his hands off a little bit and just let his coordinators do their job.
The,
Um,
and oh by the way, key in what you just said, know when to do hands off. You do your job. You bring
yeah,
in the money. You bring in the funds. You are the face. You do what you got to do there. But understand when it comes down to the actual game part of the of it. Now, granted, some head coaches have a mind for those particular positions, but when you're a head coach, you're the CEO.
yeah,
You got to oversee everything, right? So think about okay, when you were talking about James Franklin, the way you were talking about him, you know what creeped in my mind, by the way, and still I
mm,
love this question, by the way, Dre Pope. When Georgia had Mark Richt,
mm, yeah,
Mark Richt was we were 10 wins every season.
yep,
We were usually one game away from the big game, or one game away from beating Alabama for the SEC championship, one game away from a national or one drive away from the national championship, stuff like that, right? And and he was a great guy. Everybody talks about, but he wasn't what it took to get us over the hump.
yeah,
Kirby comes in, builds this monster team right away. Mark Richt goes to Miami, his alma mater. Now, unfortunately, he's only there for 2 years.
yep,
For those of you who don't know, Mark Richt, I believe he's suffering from Parkinson's. Please, I hope I'm not. I hope I'm not wrong with this. He was suffering from Parkinson's, so he had to cut his coaching career short. The kind of guy that was a great leader of people, great face, but he wasn't the guy that you need. He wasn't the guy that Georgia needed, or unfortunately, he was only in Miami for 2 years. And by the way, look at Mark Richt's college career and look at who he shared the quarterback room with. I'm not going to say any names, but some of them you know already because they're all in the Hall of Fame. Uh, he was like the number 4 quarterback, behind the guy that took the Buffalo Bills to 4 straight Super Bowls, and just it's incredible, right?
mm-hmm,
So, but he wasn't a guy to get Georgia over. And now they got the guy that does. And oh, by the way, I'm going to speak honestly. I think any other program, any other college program, might not have been as patient with Kirby Smart as Georgia was, because he's an alumnus. He played there. He was under Nick Saban for so many years in college and pro. So he brought a lot with him, and he instantly walked in, understood the culture, understood how to talk to the people, understood how to go to the $10 steak dinner, or $100 steak dinners, or whatever. And, do the thing he had to do to raise money for so many other programs, because that's one thing that people have said. He's raised money not just for the athletic department at Georgia, but also the academic department at Georgia. That's something that always people, even non-athletic people. Now, when non-athletic people rave about a coach, that's pretty huge. So he came in, he's at home, he's doing what he's supposed to do. Mark Richt probably might not have been that comfortable, but he definitely didn't get the team over winning. So Kirby brought everything. To me, that was James Franklin. He brought a lot of stuff to the table, but did not know when to let go of the things he didn't need to know when to let go of. And because of that, and even though he overcame his missteps, he found a way to survive and put Penn State in position to be competitive. But I think it'd have been more of a Mark Richt situation than it would have been a Kirby Smart situation there at Penn State.
yeah. Just to he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, but that was not why he left the team. He actually had a heart attack before the season. Or I
Right.
think it was before the
Yeah.
season or at the start of the season. He had a heart
Yeah.
attack, and then a couple of years later, he announced he had Parkinson's. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, James, I'm just gonna again, we're gonna move on to the next topic, but James Franklin, big win hire for Virginia Tech, um,
100%.
big big L for Penn State on the
Hmm.
football side. It's gonna take years for us to recover, um, and I am embarrassed for the way that we handled the situation because it it's just a frustrating situation knowing what kind of setbacks it is going to take this program
Yeah.
because again fans think that things were amazing for so long and it just it wasn't we weren't winning national championships, we weren't getting to national championships. James Franklin was what Penn State needed, and again, down season 3-3, yeah, it sucks. It happens. All this elite talent came back because they were going to win a national championship. I will always point back to that season where Chad Henne and Mike Hart and all those guys from Michigan came back and they lost the first game of the season to, at the time, FCS Appalachian State. It happens.
State.
things happen that you can't necessarily control. These things were in control again, but it's that control, but the control that he wouldn't let go. But regardless, Big L for Penn State, Big W for Virginia Tech. Thanks, Dre Pope, for that question. Second question, going to slide right back into another Dre Pope question. Talk a little bit about a team that everybody's tired of hearing about. Kansas City is on the outside looking in right now. What are our thoughts on that is essentially the question, and I'm just going to throw my quick thoughts out on that. The season's not over yet. They're just Kansas City is Kansas City. They have Patrick Mahomes. As much as people hate hearing about him, he is still on this team, and until they miss the playoffs, I'm not counting them out. I can't count them out because he has shown time and time again why you can't count them out until you get to the playoffs. And then I'll count him out when he gets to the playoffs, I guess, once he loses to the Bills in the AFC Championship game.
You know what? I have 5 words for Kansas City right now. Tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, those 5 words. Those 5 words. Trust me, you don't have to look it up. You don't have to Google it. Tired. In the last 10 years, they've played 20 more games, I believe. I believe as of right now, as of the recording of this, they've played 190 games over the last 10 years. Their closest team that to them is the Philadelphia Eagles that played 170 games. And then I think that's right. I might have it backwards. Maybe,
I mean, did they go to 4 straight? I can't remember off the top of my head. 4 straight Super Bowls or something. AFC Championship game every year. I mean,
right. And they're what? They're 3-2. Is there 3-2 in the Super Bowls? Is I have that right? They lost both times to Philadelphia, correct?
And they also lost to Brady, I think, with the Patriots.
Right. Oh my God.
I think they might have a losing record with Mahomes in it's 2 or 3 wins. I can't remember, but they went back to 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 back.
And it just shows you the energy, right, of what we're talking about, because I don't know, Bob said it perfectly last week. This is he and I talking all the time, and we like to pull stuff out. Yes, we like to fact check each other because we want to be right, but it's also like the stuff that's in our head as we come out. So unfortunately, we bring you guys inside our craniums, and you might be due compensation because of that. I don't know. So, but the reality of it is, to me, Kansas City is tired. You have a team that has built a culture, that have done what they've done, but they play so many games. And oh, by the way, listen, I know the cats who are sitting on their couches or in their Barker loungers, or look that up for y'all, you kids. But and they come to the games and they put on the shirts. I'm not going to call them jerseys unless you're on the team, but they put on the shirts with the numbers and the guys' back names on, all this other stuff. And they sit up in the stands, and it looks so easy because blah 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 whatever. And most of those people, not their fault, have no idea the physicality and pain year round that these players go through, because you're in a car wreck nearly every play. And it's not as easy as just showing up. Some guys make it look easy. And for every Patrick Mahomes, for every Tom Brady, and for every Peyton Manning, guys who have 20 years or Tom Brady, I think, played for like 50 years in the league. Anyway, for those guys who played for so long, the average career, I believe now is 2.5 seasons for an NFL player, which means for every Tom Brady, for every Patrick Mahomes, there's a dude out there who got to play 1 NFL game, and that was it. That's the entirety of their career. You go to Football Reference, and they have 1 NFL game under their belt, and you have thousands of guys like that, or hundreds of guys, whatever. I mean, I might be overstepping in the hyperbole.
I would probably say thousands. I don't know.
So if the average career is 2.5, and you got guys who have 18, 19, and 20-year careers, how many cats have only played 1 game?
Yep.
Saying all that to say, Kansas City, I really feel like they've gotten to the point where they've played so many games, but recovering from so many injuries. Everybody talk about the commercials. Everybody talk about all the public time that they have. That's the blessing and the curse of being successful. Everybody wants to see you. Everybody wants you to sell their products. Everybody wants you in their commercials. So, why not strike while the iron is hot? That horrible sarcastic phrase that always gets misused by so many people, right? But the reality of it is for them, when it comes down to Sunday, I'm going to agree with you. Until I see they've earned enough credit with me, until I see them just start consistently performing poorly, losing games by more than one possession, lo- um, just not being even in games. Just I mean, just like being Dallas.
Yeah.
Whoops, too soon. You know, until 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 I say, listen, I'm a Jets fan, so I can talk about it. I want to talk about because we suck. So, but until I see Kansas City performing like that, there's always a chance. Okay? The greatest thing I ever heard about the University of Georgia, just real quick thing. Teams who thought they had the University of Georgia beat earlier this year and toward the end of last year, and Georgia would come back and win it in the fourth quarter. Now, yes, this is hometown bias talking. Kansas City is the same way. Man, until you drive a stake through their open heart in the middle of the day out in the sun and watch the body turn to dust, they're not dead yet. So until, as you said, that final game that it hits all 4 zeros and there's no more games for Kansas City after that, that's when I believe Kansas City is out of it because they've earned that respect from me watching them perform the way they have.
Yeah.
So
At
there you
the
go.
at the end of the day, they're still 5-5. They're
Mm-hmm.
tied for sorry, record wise, they're tied with the Houston Texans. The Texans are 5-5. They're number 8. Kansas City is number 9 in the AFC standings right now. All it takes, and right now with the Texans, you don't know. I mean, Stroud coming off that concussion. I don't know if he is. I believe he's healthy now, but
Mm-hmm.
he's not playing the way he did his first season. People know him a little
Right.
bit better. He's gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine. But the teams that the Chiefs have to worry about right now, the
Mm-hmm.
Jaguars, the Texans,
Mm-hmm.
the Ravens don't know what they're doing, but the Ravens are probably the team that is the most concerning, and they're just behind the Chiefs. They're 5-5 as well. I mean, then you
Right.
look at what the Dolphins are 4-7. Are the Dolphins gonna?
Good point.
They're going on a run, but
But okay,
is that
wait,
who
wait, wait,
you?
wait, wait. Whoa, Bob, I love you. You know I love you, right? You know you're my boy. I'll take a bullet for you. If the floor is on fire, I will lay down so you can walk on my back so your feet wouldn't get hot, right? I love you very much. But let's be honest. Let's be honest. 5-5 Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Think about teams you just talked about. Jaguars, Dolphins on a run.
Yep.
With the exception of Buffalo,
Yep.
what team, if you saw them on a field with Kansas City as they are right now, supposedly wounded 5-5, would you think, man, I don't think Kansas City has a shot in this game?
Just
Rumor truth,
overall,
rumor truth, rumor truth, rumor truth.
Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not worried about them.
Mm-hmm.
Always is, and I'm just gonna go through the teams that are ahead of them right now. The
Okay.
Patriots have a young quarterback who is playing extremely well right now.
Okay.
In the playoffs, I'm going Chiefs. The Colts,
Yeah,
Daniel
see what I'm
Jones
getting at.
and Jonathan Taylor blowing it up for them right now. In the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs, Chiefs.
One game.
The
One game.
Denver Broncos. In the playoffs with Bo Nix, I'm taking the Chiefs.
I'm telling you. And oh, by the way, come on now, better than anybody. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers here, and we thank you guys for checking us out. We thank you guys for taking the time to listen to us and support us and ask questions. These questions are so great, Dre Pope. You're killing it, bro. And also, appreciate the feedback on that. That's the kind of stuff we need. We love it. We appreciate you. You know, and I think anybody in any kind of logical mindset. Yes, when you put on the uniform with a team, you believe you can beat anybody that's in front of you. You better believe that, because otherwise, don't put on the uniform. Don't go out on the field. Don't go out on the court. Don't go out on the ice. Right? Just don't. If you don't think you're going to win, don't go. Because whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right. Right?
Yep. Yep.
So, so, but in the back of those minds, for those anybody not in a Chief uniform playing against the Chiefs, at some point during the game, that stomach gets a little emptier. That
Yep.
poo poo gets a little bit tighter in the boo
That
boo.
poop poop.
And they start thinking, wait a minute, we're only up by 8, we're only up by 9, and it's 12 minutes left to go in the game. And who's that over there? It's Darth Vader, and it's people. It's Coach Andy Reid is Jabba the Hutt. It took. I quite frankly, I don't think Princess Leia killed him. I think he had a heart attack because he was partying too much, watching too much late night Showtime TV. But anyway, that's another story. You know, you look over there and you see those jerseys. There is something that comes with that, and there's an institutional memory you have of that time. That time, that team did X. And it doesn't matter you aren't on that team. Now, granted, to a lot of players, they can shut it off. There are a lot of great players that can shut this stuff off. They can stay in the moment. But because you've seen it. You've seen it on the sidelines when teams were up and they didn't quite get that wooden stake through the heart of the Chiefs. And you see them looking at the clock. And that clock might as well be a freaking hourglass, right? Sand dripping through it,
Yep.
real in slow motion, because they're thinking it's 12 minutes left. We're only up by 9. They got Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey, Pacheco, Superman, Thor, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, SpongeBob, whoever they got on the sideline over there in that uniform is giving them nightmares.
Yeah.
So again, I say room of truth with car batteries hooked up to parts of your body you don't want to talk about. You got the Chiefs versus anybody else, with the exception of maybe the Buffalo Bills. Most people are going to say, yeah, the Chiefs got a chance here.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what the Chiefs record is.
Yeah. And just to go back to what you said earlier they're not getting blown out at all.
No.
They are just tired. Real quick, they're 5-5, 5 losses, 6 points to the Chargers, 3 points to the Eagles, 3 points to the Jaguars, 6 points to the 7 points to the Bills, 3 points to the Broncos. How many
all one possession?
3-point.
All one possession games.
Yeah, all one possession games. 3 3-point losses. Nothing more than a touchdown. They have not lost by more than a touchdown. And that Bills game, let's just say that game gets tied at the end. You go to overtime.
Yep.
I'm betting on the Chiefs every single time.
Yep. And by the way, there were some kind of calls. Now, okay, we don't talk about the refs. We don't talk about Bruno. We don't
they're
talk
humans.
About that stuff, right?
They're humans.
Yeah, they're humans. They're gonna make mistakes. Those guys are 178 years old.
Yeah.
They're out there lumbering around in their jazzies and
most of them. This
is
a hobby. Most of them are lawyers, and this is what they do on the side. Shout out Ed Hawk.
Yeah. Ed Hockley with the muscles, right? Now his son is doing like more muscles. But in all seriousness, they are the same guys that some of these guys probably refed back in the days of Joe Namath. I'm just playing. But the reality of it is these players are younger, faster, and bigger. So there's a lot more that they're not seeing. Yes, I'm glad that they're using replay for a lot of stuff. At first I was kind of, I don't know, but we have the technology, might as well use it. My thing is, and I have another thing about professional football, but I think that would make the game safer. That we'll save that for another show. But the reality of it is, when the refs make a mistake, and because of how the rules are written, that's all you got to go by is the law and how it's written out, right? So, yes, sometimes there are bad calls, and because of how the rules work, if there's nothing that completely is obvious that could overturn it, it won't get overturned, even though we still have questions about it. It's what it is. Leave that alone. Leave that aside, right? Think about how many times in a game, one call, two calls, a third down conversion or whatever makes a difference. Every possession counts. So just look at these one possession games with a team like the Chiefs. Missed field goal here, a dropped pass there. That those little simple things. Now I know ifs or buts or whatever that phrase is. I get that. But the reality of it is, one possession says a lot about who they are and the way those one possession games have gone. And I guarantee you that the poo-poo in the winning team's underwear at the end of the game had a different color on it when they survived those games, because they felt like they survived those games with the Chiefs, not just outright won.
No, absolutely. Well, let's move on. Final topic. Andrew Gibson wants us to talk a little bit about how have the Hoosiers, and I'm going to throw I know he was talking about the football team, but that basketball team ain't doing too bad either. They're both undefeated. I think Hoosiers 11-0, the football team 11-0, basketball team 5-0 right now. Colts balling out. I forget what I said, 8-2, 9-2, something, whatever they are. With you have Jonathan Taylor. You have Daniel Jones was in the MVP discussion. Former Vikings Daniel Jones. Uh, but what do you think has really what has provided this resurgence of the state of Indiana in sports?
Three things, and I mean this in the most. I mean this the most supportive and positive way possible. So for those of you who don't really know us that well, hopefully you get to know us and you know that I'm not trying to be negative here. IU, the football team, is in a perfect position. They are in a weak conference. All they got to do is play who's in front of them and win those games, which they are. So they're going to go undefeated, probably because the way they constructed their team, all the stuff that my buddy Big Bob brought up earlier about what Penn State needed to do, what Georgia did do, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's done that IU. Yes, with lesser competition, but still, and the fact is, he's done it.
One
And the
game
fact that he's
left.
done it,
One game left. They got Purdue.
and oh, by the way, a one-loss Indiana team is still going to make the 12-team playoff, soon to be 16-team playoff, soon to be 170-team playoff, whatever, however they're going to do it.
But they are
So,
undefeated. They ain't losing to Purdue. They're undefeated. They ain't going to be
yeah,
one
I
loss
don't.
going in.
Right, exactly. So the reality of it is this: coach with the right attitude, who doesn't mind putting his neck out there, taking the heat for his team, saying stuff that is sort of controversial to take the weight off IU and puts the weight on him, and the team produces for him because he's willing to do that. Perfect position. IU basketball up. We could go back to the days of Bobby Knight if you want to, and I will always say this about Bobby Knight. I don't care what anybody else says. He won those championships with only one NBA Hall of Famer on his team. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna stop right there. That being said, IU has had some successes. They've been in and out, but that basketball conference now, because of how NIL work and because of everything else, they've managed to position themselves also in a good point, like the football team. And oh, by the way, don't sleep on the other teams at IU too. Think about the success of the women's team. Think about nobody ever talked about IU as a track team. Now, with all due respect to all the corn that they eat up there, and the fact that some of the people that happen to be ladies probably could be great offensive line guards. But that being said, no, no one's talked about those. So overall, IU has placed itself as a major university in a spot with a history, able to now go back and not just the football team, but across the table, build themselves up back into an athletic institution. I think it is awesome. I think it is. I think it's what it should be. And oh, by the way, when you lead it up to the pro team, there's sort of a disconnection. People don't really see the Indiana University in the same framework as, because they're in Bloomington, Indiana, as the Indianapolis Colts, even though they're in the same state, right? So think about the whole talk about what's going on with the Colts, that they went from Peyton Manning to who's the quarterback that replaced Peyton Manning, then had the neck issues. I'm probably, please fact check me on that.
Andrew Luck.
Thank you. Andrew Luck. That was very unlucky.
Retired at 29, I believe, at the top of the game.
And by the way, a lot of people thought he should have retired sooner just because he was so jacked up. But now that team is back on track, right? Being successful again with Jonathan Taylor. People talk about him in the MVP story. That doesn't happen anymore. I think the last non-quarterback MVP, please help me out. I think it's your guy. I think it's your guy from the
Adrian
right.
Peterson.
Adrian Peterson, right?
Off
That's
the
what I thought.
ACL,
Yeah.
2,000 over 2,000 yards off an ACL tear.
So if Saquon Barkley, after the year he had last season, didn't get serious MVP consideration, I don't see Jonathan Taylor being able to do it this year. And oh, by the way, and I mean, because people look at the quarterback, and oh, by the way, the quarterback, because you said something earlier that really tagged my butt a little bit. I'm not gonna lie about it, because here's how I feel about it. Is the quarterback the most important position on the field when it comes down to what happens? I so disagree with that, even though people see that, and I'm gonna tell you why. That quarterback doesn't complete that pass, and a wide receiver doesn't make that catch if somebody on the O-line holds somebody. And I know you can call holding on every play.
Yep.
I hear that all the time, blah, 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 whatever. But to me, the most important people on the team is the O-line, because they're the ones that are so susceptible for false starts, for holding, all those other little knick-knacky things to take good plays off the board. So all the stuff that we see all these great quarterbacks do, all these great wide receivers do, running back is probably to me the next position that is position dependent. In other words, the O line needs to block, yes, but running back can also make and weigh their space the way Saquon Barkley did, right, and the way Jonathan Taylor is doing now. But that's not a sexy position. We don't think about it anymore, but we think at the quarterback because that's the tall dashing, kind of like me, tall dashing blonde blue eyed guy who's doing whatever, doing their thing. And as great a season as Jonathan Taylor's having, they're still going to look at Josh
Daniel
Allen. They're still
Jones.
going to look at Daniel Jones. They're going to look at the quarterback because most cats in the media don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of what really happens to make those guys successful. It's just the way it is. It's the way the culture is. Not going to do anything about it. Leave it alone.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
quite frankly, those years that Tom Brady was getting MVP when the Patriots doing what they were doing, in my opinion, the most important player on that team, the most important player in the league was Vince Wilfork.
mm,
What was he, 6'2", 340 pounds, ran like a
three
cornerback,
340 is.
and
I think they had him listed at 340, but that oh man, that's
he's a monster. He's the reason of the butt fumble. He's the reason that the Jets had the butt fumble because he shoved Nick Mangold right up Mark Sanchez's jockstrap and just ran over them both like he was a Mack truck. And he did that to everybody all the time. And you notice what happened with that defensive play for the Patriots. I know I'm just talking about the Patriots. I know we're talking about Indiana. I'm gonna get back to Indiana right now, Trump promise. But when he left, I think he went to Houston after he left the
yeah,
Patriots.
yeah, because
When he
he
left,
loved wearing overalls with nothing underneath.
well, when you're that big, who's going to tell him no, right? I'm not. Yeah, you're not close. No, don't worry about closing your legs. Don't worry about it. It's fine. So, when he left, that's when you start seeing that dip in the defensive line because now what? You had to bring more people to bring pressure. When you had him and two other guys, he took enough attention to get everybody to bring pressure on everybody. But anyway, to me, he should have been MVP a bunch of those years. But back to Jonathan Taylor. Would I like to see a running back get MVP or another position get MVP? Somebody like my boy Jerry Rice did back in the day. You're not gonna see that anymore. I just said I think well I shouldn't say anymore. I think our media has moved to a point now where a guy like Jonathan Taylor and the work that he puts in and the fact that we expect the life expectancy of a running back in the league is 7 games. We don't expect them to have enough of a season to have a career anymore because of how they basically churn and burn running backs in and out. So the Jonathan Taylors, the Saquon Barkleys, the Mike Pacheco's, those guys, the Bijan Robinson in Atlanta, those guys are becoming the rarity as opposed to becoming the norm like it used to be back in the day. That being said, and I'm tied up so I can give it back to you here. Indiana as a whole, I think, is experienced this resurgence because I think for the first time in a long time, we're seeing a true integration of the energies of all the teams, not just IU and Bloomington, Purdue, the Indianapolis Colts, the Indiana Pacers, the sports are performing at a level now that are getting national attention, and it's hard when the most thing that you have to talk about there is you can't say Indiana. You're biblically and legally contractually obligated to say Larry Bird whenever you talk about Indiana, right? So now for the first time they can talk about other things other than Larry Bird, and it's in a way, Reggie Miller, in a way that now because of the performance on the field, on the court, and on the ice. Because don't forget, IU hockey is not doing too bad. Is supposed to be doing pretty good too this year, or supposed to be pretty good this year, this season. I think it's great for a state that is I think it's what is it? Indiana. Please fact check me this. I think it's the 11th poorest state in the union in terms of their overall GDP because they rely mostly on they're getting some tech industry stuff. I know this isn't about sports. They're getting some tech industry stuff, but their farming community has taken a real hit over the last few years. So that being said, I'm excited I'm here for it. Get it, Indiana. Get it.
Yeah, I want to jump back. It's crazy that when you think of like these elite athlete. Well, I mean, I say elite athlete as sports because I know some of these guys, they like to say they weren't athletic. Jerry Rice, they like to say he wasn't really that athletic, because
Please,
he ran a slow 40 time. It's like when you throw the pads
please.
on, it don't matter. But it's crazy that some of these guys never won MVP. And just look, in 1987, if Jerry Rice would have played an entire season, like, you have to give him the MVP. He never won an official NFL
You know,
MVP,
that's
but
true. You're right.
in 87, 12 games, 22 touchdown catches. It's like, I know some of these, you have all those other knockoff MVP awards. He won a couple of them from
Yeah.
Sporting News and things like that, but
Right,
it's
right, right.
crazy like what these guys are able to do. I get it. I do get it. The quarterback, he's the face of the franchise. It's like the head coach. The head coach,
Right.
he's the CEO of the
Great point.
franchise, essentially. Um, but without a decent, very rarely are you going to have a quarterback so smart that they are going to make up for the lack of offensive line. That's your Tom Brady's, that's your Peyton Manning's. They are the ones that are
Bingo.
going to be able to call the plays or call the changes at the line to mitigate.
And know everybody's role.
Yeah.
Or know everybody's role. And I apologize for cutting you off because it's something you just said, Bob, I just love talking. He can make you so excited. People don't, some people might not realize Tom Brady 1 year with Randy Moss broke every record between Earth, Mars, and Venus for quarterback and wide receiver combination, right? It's he had a guy that was on his level that understood the game that he did. And he's told a story, and I hope this story is public. I hope I'm not telling anything out of school. But he told a story about with the second game with Randy Moss, and Randy Moss said, listen, I got this guy beat if I go to the post, blah, 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 whatever. I'm gonna give you the hand sign because what people didn't know about, if you watch Randy Moss run routes, he didn't
threw
do
the
the
hand
step thing.
threw that
You
hand up.
know, yeah. He didn't do the step thing. So he would get to his point, but he would do it in a awkward number of steps to confuse the defense. Outside the fact he was faster than everybody. So if you want to get into some metadata on how receiver worked the game, much like Jerry Rice, even though Jerry Rice was slow motion, he got to his spots at a way in a time that he was always open. And then he always caught the ball. So then you take a guy like Randy Moss, who has that same sort of IQ in terms of getting to his spot by not using the traditional number of steps. So he was very hard to scout. How people knew Randy Moss was actually going to have a pass on him is when he put his gloves on his hand as opposed to when they were hanging from his face mask. There's that story about him. But one story that I hope is public, and I hope I'm not saying anything out of school, Tom Brady told a group once about Randy Moss comes back to the huddle, says, I got this guy beat if I just go to the post. I'm going to do this, blah, blah, whatever. He says, sling the ball 80 yards or 70 yards or whatever it was. He says, I'm going to be there when you just throw it. Don't even wait for me to get there. Throw it. I'm going to get the ball. And he said to Randy Moss, dude, I can't throw the ball that far. And Randy looked square in the face and said, well, how far can you throw it? But it shows you. And he said, oh, so whatever he said. And he said he threw it and Randy Moss was right there, just the way he said he was going to be. So the fact that you have that sort of IQ working and be able to do the physical thing to back it up, that's something super special. Now look at Tom Brady's career and look at this. I'm not saying that he was working with trash. Please don't say that I'm saying that. Please don't say that
Loved me some Dion Branch. Loved me some Dion Branch.
Me too. Me too, to be honest with you. But the reality of it is he didn't have those top shelf guys and he still made everybody better around him. That is once in a lifetime kind of stuff.
He made every white FCS quarterback look like an elite wide receiver in the NFL.
Yes, he did.
I was going to say, I can't remember the order, but it was like Wes Welker to Amendola to Edelman. It's like,
yep.
Could you imagine now? We're not going to dive into this, but imagine if the Hernandez situation hadn't happened. Like imagine that with Gronk and Hernandez out there. Right,
and by the way, for those who might not know, if you look up the Aaron Hernandez story, you'll get all you need to get. But at one point, he would have been teammates with Gronkowski. We had Aaron Hernandez, which is basically Gronkowski from the hood.
They were drafted the same year, I believe.
Same year. So Aaron Hernandez was basically Gronkowski from the hood, and then Gronkowski is the meathead because the whole family's just like him except the mom. And they had those two guys together for God knows how long. Who can only imagine?
Hernandez, I think Hernandez has just signed his extension whenever all that stuff happened. But
Hmm.
I know people. I just want to. I'm going to talk about Gronk for just a second. I know people, they make fun of him because he puts on an act. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's
He is not.
100% it
He is
is.
so smart with. I love listening to him talk. I love
Hmm.
listening to him talk. But I do want people. Hopefully, it doesn't affect us. But I would love for people to go listen to his interview with Caleb Presley.
Yes,
It's like he's a
yes,
comedian, but he's just.
yes.
It's hilarious just listening to what he does to athletes and famous people when he has them on. Go watch it, but don't watch it around kids, please.
No, no, no. And
uh,
oh, by the way, look at all the side scene and behind the scenes sideline stuff you get with Gronk when Gronk is talking plays and stuff like that. Like just like Travis Kelsey, they thought everybody thought Travis Kelsey was a meathead, right? But
mhm.
then when they came down to studying film, watching film, and trust me, we haven't lost the Indiana topic yet. I promise you.
So
When it came down to
I'm
studying
sure
film,
Gronkowski traveled through Indiana at some point. That's how we're
at
tying it
some
back
point,
together.
well, he dated that girl that was a
Yeah.
adult film star who was from there. So there we go. There's the tie. Um, sorry, that was uncool. Um, we'll take that out in post. Not. Uh, the IQ that those guys have, it's hard to just be a meathead and be that
Yeah.
successful at that level of sports, especially in the NFL. You know, the Lawrence Taylors who would call out your plays, the Ray Lewises, the Warren Sapps, the guys who would call out the other team's plays when they're
Luke
lining up,
Kuechly.
and they would watch the lineman go, how the what the
Yep.
okay,
Yep.
you know, I'm sorry. You might want to call those guys meatheads because they just played all out and play like they lost their mind or play like their hair was on fire, but they played within the game. They had the talent and the acumen and the IQ, and they were able to put it all together.
Absolutely. But let's go just to tie it back around. Jonathan Taylor, while he is having the best career, or the best season of his career right now,
Hmm.
because of the way the voters are, he is not going to
Hmm.
win the MVP. The player on that team that has the best chance is Daniel Jones, even though Jonathan
Yep.
Taylor is playing outstanding and he would be the team's MVP right now on offense.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is what it is, but the way the voters are, he's not a quarterback. You have to do some out of this world thing. If Adrian Peterson had not torn his ACL the season prior and had
He
the
would have got no
exact
attention.
same season, he would
He
not
would
have
have got
been
no
in that
attention.
conversation.
Exactly. Would have got no
That
attention
is
at
what
all.
it
You're
is.
absolutely right. And oh, by the way,
Um,
I'm a soapbox for 30 seconds. I promise only 30 seconds. Writers suck. And I'm going to tell you why they suck. Writers forget that they need the fans. The fans want to have good writers and honest writers, but writers need the fans. So when they do stuff for like MVP voting and Hall of Fame voting and all that other stuff, and they play those little games that they play, Heisman voting and stuff like that, it makes them look even more. It makes them look not only weak but very unintelligent. And one day, I hope and pray that writers figure that out. That it's not about them. That they live there, but by the graces of watching these cats, women and men, play the sports at a high level that they do, and understand that the fans want the writers to be good because they want information, right?
yeah,
But we talked
yeah,
about social media last week and how stuff is coming to you fast now because now the players just tell you what happened on the field. So okay, so that means fans want writers, but writers need fans. Otherwise, they're not going to get those clicks. They're not going to get those reads. They're not going to get those impressions that they need to get on their X feed and their whatever Hinge feed, whatever the social. I don't, I'm on MySpace, so whatever it is. So and one day I hope for the sake of people who want to be fans in every single way that they get writers that are honest across the table as well as the players to get legitimate looks at what they're able to do. And I'm done.
yeah. And I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but I mean, you look at the writer who intentionally did not vote for Derek Jeter in the Hall of
Hmm.
Fame because he didn't want
Come
somebody
on,
who,
man. Come.
it,
Ooh.
yeah.
Dale
But
Murphy. Dale Murphy was two-time back-to-back MVP of the National League, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. And you ask any pitcher from that area, you ask anybody from that area. Yes, the Atlanta Braves. That was my team. I listen to them on the radio all the time. That's how we talked about this before. But whenever Dale Murphy came up, you knew something was going to happen. You knew something was going to happen because he was that kind of player. He was that kind of player in the field. He was that kind of leader on the field. He was kind of that leader off the field. Either I'm on the soap, I apologize. I raised my voice. I raised my voice. I apologize. It's just it's it burns me, man, to find to because that whole thing about, well, Babe Ruth didn't get unanimous votes to the Hall of Fame, so why should anybody else? That's the kind of stuff. I'm sorry. Dump your head in a cruise ship toilet and flush it, because you are so disrespecting not just the fans, but the people who put in that sweat equity to get to that level. I'm sorry, no trash makes it to the pros. You get
No.
found out pretty quickly. Even a cat like Jamarcus Russell that everybody
Oh yeah.
dogs out,
Oh
but
yeah.
he managed to hang in there because he was still physically gifted enough and aware enough to survive. No, he wasn't as great as everybody thought he was going to be. And I'm yelling. I apologize. I'm yelling. I'm sorry. No trash gets that far. If somebody makes it there and they're able to stay there, it says something about them. Are there other more talented people out there? Well, all we see is what's on the field during game day or during the court. We don't know what happens in practice. We don't know what
Yep.
happens in the other stuff. There's so much stuff we don't know, because if you're not complete, if your stuff is shady, think about Tyreek Hill. He has what? He has more kids than Nick Cannon, and that says a lot. So, you think about a player like him that manages to do all of that and still be the kind of player that he is, right? Now, granted, it's caught up to him now that knee situation is going to have to slow it down. This the kids watching the show. I'm going to be careful when I say this, but the reality of it is this, though. He's still so top level, despite of the conflict of interest that he has off the field. He's able to produce on the field. Lawrence Taylor, who could much more conflict of interest off the field than him? Guy's a maniac,
Ooh.
but he
Yeah.
produced on a high level that he even made his own team crazy, because the coach at Parcells had to pull him off the field because he was ruining practices. So, I'm sorry. You can't be trash and make it and survive at that level. And I'm going to say one name. I'm going to leave it alone. Jameis Winston. People want to bag on him. All they
Love
want to
him.
bag on him. And I'm going to say this right now. There's a reason that teams keep pulling him in, because
Yep.
they're not going to give millions of dollars to somebody just because they look out of shape in spandex. Okay. He's bringing something to the table that team said it's worth me paying that money to be here. And obviously, whenever they get tired of him or he moves on to someplace else, somebody else picks him up. I'm gonna say that. I'm sorry, and
I'll
I
do you
apologize.
one.
I
I'll do
apologize
you
for raising
one.
my
No,
voice.
I'll do you one name better. Josh Johnson. Josh
Bingo.
Johnson has spent so
Great.
much. Did he finally retire? I think he might have finally retired, but I think he played 11, 12 teams. But and this wasn't practice squad. He was the backup. Every
Mm-hmm.
there was a
Mm-hmm.
reason that teams wanted him there and kept him around. Your Gardner
Mm-hmm.
Minshew's, your Ryan
Mm-hmm.
Fitzpatrick's.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Fitzpatrick. Yes, I mean at times they're just the fact that they've been around long enough. They're gonna succeed when you put them in. Sometimes it's not going to be all the time, but it's going to be enough. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think him and Jameis Winston should just go into the Hall of Fame just for their persona.
Number of jerseys they won. Let's see.
Yeah,
Ron
that one too.
Fitzpatrick has played for, let's see, there's 32 teams in the NFL. Ron Fitzpatrick has played for 48 teams.
Yep, all
So
48 of them.
I'm not just playing. He's played for, is it, and I know because he was a Jet at least twice.
Yeah,
So, but for every for every Baker Mayfield that everybody thought was a joke, and all of a sudden he showed us that he's really who he's supposed to be, that's great. There's a Johnny Manziel who everybody thought was going to
yeah.
be something, but he put in no work. He put in no
That
work, and it showed, right?
and that's the thing we talk about. Like you said, these guys, and it's every sport. They made it there for some reason. They made it there. Usually, there is a huge factor of why they did not succeed. Jameis Winston, Johnny Manziel, they just didn't have their head in the game. And then you have your Aaron Curry, who was a surefire Hall of Famer coming out of Wake Forest. The game was just too fast for him. Sometimes it happens. It's just the way things go. It doesn't mean they weren't talented. It means there's that factor. Tom Brady, if it wasn't for his ability to prepare, would not be the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL. But he
Right.
prepared like no other player
Oh,
in
like
the game.
nobody else. Like
Um,
nobody else.
we've rambled. I don't even know what are we talking about anymore. My show. We've gone past our
Indiana.
topics and we
You're
just
talking
went
about
to
Indiana.
all
You're talking about
yeah,
Indiana.
Indiana.
I'm,
But
I'm sorry, Gip. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Gip.
he's like,
I'm
"What are we
sorry, but I
doing
mean,
here, man?"
but you know what? Great questions bring you to
Yeah,
all these. Okay, yes. Inside my mind, there's 27 voices, and I swear to you, 6 of them are squirrels. So they're going
and
to be all over the place, right?
the medication only puts about 3 of them away. So
Yeah, well, I think they actually want the medication, to be honest with you. But the reality of it is great questions lead you naturally to so many other tangential topics. Talking about the success of Indiana and how that whole thing is brought us up to what? Talking about other people who were in for the MVP award and on the different teams and what it takes to be successful as an MVP. Talking about Jonathan Taylor doing what he's supposed to do. And so forth, so forth, so forth. So, the progression isn't as much rambling as it is. It's a circuitous route to the topic, to another subject within the topic, and that's what great questions do. Because I love that question about IU. I mean Indiana. Period. It's just amazing what's going on there right now. It's almost like they're the new mecca of college and pro sports.
yeah, we will never not have something to talk about because our brains never stop. They're
Squirrel.
always going in. They're always going in some. They're always going in some direction. But before we wrap it up, I do want to give a shout out to some of our former colleagues over at SimWorld Sports. Me and Maestro would not have met without SimWorld Sports. I do want to give them a shout out. They have a new podcast next Wednesday, the November 27th, the day before Thanksgiving, called Tell Me I'm Wrong. Check it out next week when it comes out. Marsh, Rick, Roniel, make sure you find that online on Instagram, TikTok, follow, listen to them, help get them up, help get them their views and stuff, so that we can succeed together, because
Yes.
we all need people to succeed. We all need a
Thank
team
you.
to succeed. So, but Maestro, appreciate you. We don't have the time constraints that we used to have. We're over an hour, and we don't even have to care about that. And
I know, and for
if you are
everybody else, we're sorry about that.
if you're still here, thank you. If you're not still here, thank you for whatever you did listen to. But if you guys help us out the most by subscribing and liking, commenting. But we love those comments. You shoot us an
Oh
email
yeah.
at our email in the pocket sportspodcast@gmail.com. Comment your questions in this episode for the next episode. Let us know. Find me on TikTok, and I'll make us a TikTok and an Instagram eventually. But I haven't done it for some reason, but we'll get it done. But let us know what you want to hear us talk about. It doesn't necessarily have to be sports related, but we'll make it sports related. Just we want you guys to be happy with what you hear from us. But
Yes.
Maestro, do you have any final words for the people?
Thank you guys. Appreciate you so much. This is no fun without y'all. Period. I mean, I love my boy Bob, and I could talk to him when we're locked up in the asylum all day long. But it's nice to know that other people actually listen to us talk, and even though you guys make notes about our medications, that you're still out there. So we appreciate you.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week.